Got a loaded show on today's edition of Warriors Today by Chat Sports, as huge news has come out on the return of Jonathan Kuminga as Golden State heads into a 5-game road trip. And then on the back half of today's show, we're going to talk about Kevin Knox. The Warriors' 10-day contract right now is set to expire in a few days here. And with the performance that he had against the Charlotte Hornets, he might be due for a contract for the rest of the season. That in just a moment. But let's hop right in to this big update on Kuminga's injury. Per Anthony Slater, I was waiting for this all day. I had the whole show script out, was just waiting for the concrete update about Kuminga. And he says Kuminga will remain out against the Orlando Magic on the first game of 5 on the East Coast. And they're still waiting on Warriors medical guru Rick Celebrini's green light to have Kuminga out there on the floor. He's been scrimmaging 5-on-5. He's at the final stage of his return from the ankle injury. And the middle of the road trip, which features matchups against teams like the Knicks and the Nets and the 76ers, that's when we could see a potential Jonathan Kuminga return, but not going to be playing against the Orlando Magic. Golden State only faces one team with a positive record over this next 5-game stretch, so very interested to see what game Jonathan Kuminga ends up returning to the floor on. But this is why you subscribe, right? We bring you the Golden State Warriors news when it happens. Breaking news coverage, daily Warriors videos. We're keeping you guys tapped in like nobody else on Warriors YouTube. And we got live watch parties basically the rest of the season. We just had one last night and a drubbing against the Charlotte Hornets, as well as the Magic game and the Sixers game coming up this weekend. It's all 100% free. Go down below, hit that red subscribe button, and join 75,000 Golden State Warriors fans who had a ton of growth in the channel, and we want you guys to be a part of it. So Kuminga's return will be massive for the Golden State Warriors. He brings an element that this current crop of dubs doesn't really have out there right now. An uber athletic lob threat, downhill attacker at the rim. You know, Jimmy was supposed to be that guy. And he's kind of playing the Kuminga role right now in the dunker spot, sealing defenders off on the low block and running out of the high post as well. But Kuminga is that downhill, put your shoulder into the defender guy who can go get shots at the rim. And, he's improving his offensive polish as well. I'm interested to see what his fit will be in the Golden State lineup. And I wanted to bring up this little quote right here. And we know that Kuminga's scrimmaging and all this jazz. But Steve Kerr spoke to 95.7 the game and said, he looks good. Everything is coming along as we hoped. And that's awesome news, right? Because this is a bad ankle sprain. Kuminga's been out for 2 months on an ankle sprain. Like, that's not super common in today's NBA, and they didn't want to re-aggravate it. Take a lot of caution with this injury, and he'll be back on the court 100%. Very interested to see how he fits alongside everybody, and especially interested to see how he fits on the court when he's in a lineup with Jimmy Butler. Like I said, he's been playing that Kuminga role since he has kind of come to Golden State. So how will Jimmy's role change, and how will Kuminga's role change when these two see the floor together? I expect a starting lineup to probably not consist of Kuminga, and he's still going to play starter-level minutes coming off of the bench and maybe run some of his own units. But when he and Jimmy are out there on the floor, I'm very excited to see how they mesh together and how they can play off of each other potentially. And the number one thing I'm really looking forward to is how Jimmy can use his talent, his IQ to trickle down into Jonathan Kuminga. Here's what Jimmy had to say about kind of being a mentor and what Kuminga is going to bring back to this lineup. He said, I think it's going to be easy. Hella athletic, can shoot it, can score in a multitude of ways, can definitely guard. I think he's going to come back and do what he's been doing. My job is to make it even easier on him. And Butler's made the game easier on everyone. I mean, I know the stats aren't necessarily jumping off the page, and you see a guy like Wiggins over the last few games in Miami really having an uber impact on the stat sheet. But on the overall basketball on the floor, Jimmy just alleviates so much pressure. There has to be attention on him defensively. He and Draymond are running this little two-man game while Steph runs around the perimeter, and the defense still has to gravitate towards that. So, he's opened up everything for this offense, and Golden State has been one of the best in the league since he has entered the fold. But I'm excited to see what Kuminga can do, because before he got hurt, this guy was playing at the best basketball level of his career. Multiple 30-point games in the month of December. And he has shown when he's given the keys, he can drive the offense where it needs to go and put up big-time buckets. Remember that game against the Houston Rockets where he puts up 33 points? That Rockets team was at full strength. I don't think the Warriors even had Steph for that game, and Kuminga just went to work. Golden State got the win, and it looks like he's going to provide a lot for this Golden State team. I think he's going to hopefully mold his game around Jimmy Butler, which we'll talk about in just a moment, because I think he could be the next Jimmy Butler. What did Jimmy come into this league as? A super raw, athletic player, but had a lot of drive and had a lot of tangible assets that could translate down the line with the right tutelage and the right development around him. I think Kuminga could do the same thing. Golden State's great at developing talent, and Jimmy is that veteran presence that he needs to act as a sponge towards and pick up his tendencies and pick up his basketball IQ. And Steve Kerr has been making it known to Kuminga in that aspect. Here's what he had to say about watching some film. He said, we've watched Kuminga's film, but also showing some of Jimmy's stuff. What Jimmy's doing right now, because I think he's the perfect guy for JK to emulate. What makes Jimmy so special is that he doesn't try to be special. He just plays fundamental ball. He never turns it over, and he just makes simple play over and over again. And that's what we need Kuminga to do. We don't need him to be the hero. We don't need him to be 30 points a night. We need him to make the right plays and take the opportunities and take what the defense gives him and just go out there and make highlights for Golden State. An improved basketball IQ, in my opinion, is really the next step that Kuminga has to take. I can't get it out of my mind where Kuminga is guarding Rui Hachimura out of bounds on the final possession on Christmas Day, and Wiggins gets blown by to the rim, and there's no help from Kuminga on that side. I need that to kind of be changed and totally flipped on its head. I really do think Butler can make that happen for Kuminga. More from Kerr here about Kuminga's return. He said, the main thing I want JK to not do is press. The team is rolling. Contract decision this summer. He knows he can get that in his head. But I want to make things as easy as possible. He was playing the best basketball of his career, so it'll take a little time. And Steve Kerr did report that, he doesn't know when Kuminga is going to be cleared. And, we don't necessarily know definitively right now. We know he's not going to play against Orlando, but we do know that he is going to return on this road trip at some point, potentially in the middle of it all. And you can expect Jonathan Kuminga to be a part of this team for the long haul. Like, remember, we know the Jimmy trade put them in kind of a tough financial situation and maybe sets them up to go into the second apron down the line. But ownership, Joe Lacob, and they're all dead set on bringing him back this offseason, signing him to a big deal that he might eventually command. You remember what we heard from the Slater interview with Lacob? He said, absolutely. And he said, of the financial constraints that the Jimmy trade puts on potentially re-signing Kuminga, Lacob said, yeah. So I'm all in on Lacob going all in on this roster, on Steph, on Draymond, on Jimmy, and providing them with talent around them and ascending talent like Kuminga. I mean, I'm just thinking about down the line right now. Jonathan Kuminga could be an all-star level player in maybe the 26-27 season after a couple years under Jimmy's wing. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the moves that this front office is making and the belief in the ownership room. And hopefully, when Kuminga comes back, he can be a massive part and make Golden State a potential contender in the Western Conference. The 6th seed is in reach, and does Kuminga put them over the edge? Does Jonathan Kuminga's return make Golden State a contender? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'm trying to hear from Dub Nation on what they think on Jonathan Kuminga's true impact on this roster. Next, we're going to dive into the back half of Golden State's rotation, and maybe not something that overall is going to move the needle, but has Kevin Knox earned himself a spot in this Warriors rotation for the long haul and maybe into next season? Talk about that in just a moment, but first, I got to give a major shout-out to today's sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform because it's daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 player stat projections and just pick more or less, whether it's basketball, hockey, esports, college sports, bowling, darts, does not matter. PrizePicks has it all, and they're always trying to hook you up with incredible deals. Like a free $50 in your account when you sign up using our promo code CLNS and place your first $5 entry by just picking more or less. You can win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks, and I'll just give you guys a quick example right here. And basketball season's in full swing, and as for the games that we got on the slate tonight, got Matas Puzelis more than 19.5 points, rebounds, assists. He's getting a larger role in Chicago. Give me the rookie to have a big night. And then James Harden, more than 15 rebounds plus assists. I mean, it's crazy that Harden's still playing at this elite level, and I'm going to keep riding when he's putting up big numbers. Life's too short to take the less. I took the more on 2 of those picks. But you can fade them. You can take them. Just do it at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use our promo code CLNS for $50 instantly when you place your first $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. All that information will be clickable down in the comment section and description of today's video. Are we signing Kevin Knox? Is he back? Is he having a career renaissance with the Golden State Warriors after spending some time in the G League with the C-Dubs? He had a big night against the Charlotte Hornets, and his 10-day contract comes to a close very, very soon. He's on his way to potentially being back on the free agent market or back in Santa Cruz, but he made a big-time statement last night against the Charlotte Hornets. When Golden State was kind of up 30 at a point, they was like, you know what, let's give extended run to Kevin Knox, who played 19 minutes in the ball game and kind of made the most of it, to be quite honest with you. 12 points, 4 of 7 from the field, including 2 of 4 from three-point range, 5 boards, big 6'8" wing, had a really sick alley-oop dunk that he threw down with authority, 3 dimes as well, like totally filled up the stat sheet and had an impact on the defensive end as well. 2 blocks, 1 steal, combining for 3 stocks. Kevin Knox is a big-time wing, and that's something that Golden State is kind of lacked on this roster right now. Size on the wing. I mean, you got a guy like Guy Santos, who's a thick 6'7" wing, but isn't really the best defender. Doesn't give you a ton on offense. Does give you a ton of effort, but I do think that Kevin Knox is, at the end of the day, maybe potentially a more skilled basketball player overall, and maybe raises the ceiling of the back end of Golden State's rotation over a guy like Guy. And the Knox contract right now is obviously very cheap. It's a 10-day deal. It's going to cost Golden State $150,000, but there's a couple options that Golden State can go through if they want to potentially keep Kevin Knox or waive him down the line. And there's 3 options, essentially, right? Like, you either waive Kevin Knox after this 10-day deal is over. You have the Orlando game tomorrow, and then it expires on the 28th there after that. Or you could sign him to another 10-day deal and kind of push things down the line and wait to potentially have to sign him to a prorated contract for the rest of the season. Or you could just do that right now. And I have different opinions on what Golden State needs to do. I think they could be flexible with this and potentially sign him to another 10-day. But let me know what you guys think. Like, what is the best option for Golden State to do with Kevin Knox? Do you waive him? Do you sign him to another 10-day? Or do you sign him to another contract that's standard for the rest of the season? Let me know down in the comments section. I think it's going to be another 10-day deal, and then probably, you see how he performs. Maybe Golden State gets a couple more blowouts, a couple more extended runs for Knox, and he shows them enough to earn a end-of-the-season deal. Like, the names out there necessarily, aren't all that great, and Kevin Knox is buying in. He's been a part of this system for a little bit. He said this about his current role with Golden State. He's getting more comfortable. I mean, he's only been with the team 3 games at this point. He said, my job is just to try to fit in and play as hard as I can. He played really, really hard over the final 19 minutes of yesterday's ball game, and I like Kevin Knox. I think he's got still a little bit of upside left. He shot the ball really well last night. He looks like he's really trying to get his foot back in the door in the NBA. And you know what? If it's with Golden State, a team who needs a big 6'8" wing like that, I'm all in on bringing Kevin Knox in for the rest of the season. Also, the Dubs will have to fill another roster spot because remember, they didn't just sign 1 10-day contract. They signed 2. And the second guy was in the form of Yuri Collins, the former St. Louis point guard, the ball handler, the distributor. He's a solid player. Doesn't really give you a lot of scoring upside. He's a very undersized guy at 6 foot, 190. Just doesn't jump off the page. He was actually the only Warrior not to score last night against the Charlotte Hornets, but he didn't even throw a shot attempt up there. Solid defender, good facilitator, but I mean, not going to be all that impactful at the end of the day. I wonder if this guy, 2-way contract, new signing Taron Armstrong, can show enough if, say, Golden State does another round of 10 days and we see a little bit of Taron in the G League. Why don't they just guarantee his deal? Why don't they just bring him up? 6'6" point guard, can distribute, can handle the ball, works really well in the pick and roll. I was actually listening to Andrew Bogut talk about him earlier today because he's an Australian and he's a part owner of the Sydney Kings over there in the NBL. Taron plays in the NBL right now, and he's been really, really good. Now he's coming over to play in Santa Cruz and maybe a couple games up in Golden State. And, he's getting comparisons to Josh Giddey. Like, who doesn't want another massive guard on the team that maybe probably isn't the best defender, but long enough to hold his own in there for a couple stretches. Not expecting him to be a big-time player, but, maybe this gives you a little bit more upside than holding Yuri Collins for the rest of the season. My overall take, though, is, does it really matter at the end of the day? Golden State's rotation is going to be cut down, I hope, to 10 guys max. I would even say 8 or 9 is where I really, really want it to be once the regular season's wrapping up, once the postseason is in, is in the present, and Golden State's hopefully out of the play-in tournament at that 6th seed, potentially at that 5th seed with a couple of guys slipping near the top of the Western Conference. So, these deals, whoever they end up going with, I'm sure they will go with Knox for the rest of the season, but whoever they end up signing to that second deal for the rest of the year, I don't expect it to impact Golden State all that much unless there's some major injuries that happen to this roster, and at that point, the season might be wrapped anyway. But the season is not wrapped right now. Since the Butler trade, Golden State has been one of the best overall teams in the entire NBA. 6th-ranked offense, the 1st-ranked defense, the 2nd-ranked net rating in the entire league, and I'm only looking for Golden State to compound these numbers on this East Coast road trip, playing only one team with a winning record, and that team is kind of free-falling themselves in the New York Knicks. This Jimmy Butler Warriors era could not have gotten better aside from, a rough loss to the Dallas Mavericks. Shout out to my guy, Coop. But hopefully Golden State continues on this trek of winning games and winning them at a high clip and giving their guys like Steph, Jimmy, Draymond a long break there in the 4th quarter like they did against Charlotte. Make sure you are subscribed to Golden State Warriors today, though. We just passed 75,000 subscribers here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for all your support. If you love the Dubs, you're going to love what we got going on here at the channel. So hit that sub button, lock us in. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.